Hello, and welcome to another Scoresheet podcast. Today I'm happy to say we've got on with us Jeff Erickson. Jeff is a guy that started Roto News back in the day, helped start that company. He's been working for Rotowire forever now, and he's been playing in numerous Scoresheet leagues for a long time. How are you, Jeff?
Doing great, Jeff. Always great to talk to you, and we'll return the favor, get you on XM at some point here soon too. Tell everybody how great Scoresheet is because it is an amazing game. And I'm in four leagues. I've been in four for a long time now. And I love the game. It's a really fun game.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, all you folks out there, I'm sure, these days everybody's used to if you have a question about a player, you just go to the web and you want to know what his health status is. You click on Rotowire or some other website maybe, and you instantly get their latest injury news. Jeff's site was pretty much the pioneer of that entire industry and information network. It was Roto News back then, right?
Yeah, we started as Roto News in 1997. We're the first to kind of have that, the player news and the analysis and all that in one database, one form, a streaming set, running set of news and beat writers covering teams and all that. In that format, we definitely were that for sure. And there's other people that did fantasy sports and tried to cover fantasy news. Like Bob Stahl used to do a newsletter. Well, if you remember Bob, Spin Stats, I think he used to do way back in the day. But Peter Shanky had the idea, came to me, said, "Hey, you'll be the content guy, I'll be the business guy. Our third guy, Herb Ilk, is the tech guy. He's designing this back end for us here. It's going to be great." And it was great. It was awesome. We still use a lot of our old, the original admin database, admin interface that we use to update the site. We still use it. We've updated things here and there, obviously, over time, but it's still the backbone of the site.
And it's still a great site. I mean, I pretty much don't draft a player without taking the 20 seconds it takes to look their name up on Rotowire to make sure that, he doesn't have some elbow injury I forgot about.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And then, of course, not only looking up stats, you guys have a ton of, free information. You can do all that for free. And then you guys have, if you want, kind of projections for next year and various columns and all sorts of things, you guys also have a subscription available.
That's right. If you want to check it all out, get a 10-day trial. Go to rotowire.com/radio, get a free 10-day trial. You can check it out for yourself. Dig deep. There's no credit card or anything. Just see what you like. If you like it, subscribe would be great. We'd hope you stick around for us for a while.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly recommend it. I mean, like I said, they've been around, 97. So 21 years now, and they're the site I go to for injury news. And as you said, you play Scoresheet. One of the leagues you're in is called BL Kings. It's a 24-team AL and NL. Pretty much all industry folks in it, and you were the champion last year.
Finally. I think I've been playing in this league for 10, 12, 14 years and had made the playoffs a couple times, but I don't even know if I'd even gotten into the World Series, but finally assembled a great team. It's been building up, and I was in the division of death. We have 6 divisions, this 24-team league, mixed league. All 4 of us were over 90 wins. It was crazy tight. I had 102. There was another for 97, 2 more with 93. So it was the division of death for sure. But my core stuck together, and then I made a well-timed trade for Justin Verlander to help push me over the top, along with a bunch of relievers.
Verlander, he helped you. He helped the Astros.
Yeah, exactly. And it illustrates to me, and one of the things I'm still learning. I don't want to come across as like I've solved this puzzle, but there's a difference between building a team that can withstand the rigors of the regular season and one that's you're primed for the playoffs. So, let's face it, how weighted the late season stats are. You need to have some aces going late, and they need to be healthy. 2 years ago, I had the best record in the league in the regular season, but Arrieta was banged up down the stretch. Carrasco was banged up down the stretch. This past year, Carrasco was a stud down the stretch. Verlander was a stud down the stretch. I didn't need the depth. I needed, elite, and that's what got me through.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference between building a team to win in the playoffs and a team to win in the regular season is depth.
Yep.
Because you have to get to the playoffs, obviously, to win the playoffs. That's the first key. So if you don't get there, obviously you're out of luck. And to do that, you pretty much need a good 4th and 5th starter. You can't have 4th and 5th starters that win 3 games all year. And you need a 4th outfielder and a utility infielder to win those, like you said, well over 90 games to make the playoffs in a lot of leagues. But
Yeah.
then in the playoffs, you can't beat another team good enough to be in the playoffs unless you have a couple aces. Whereas the fourth and fifth starter that got you to the playoffs, just like in real life, they're barely going to even play in the playoffs for you.
Exactly. In fact, you don't need just a fourth and fifth starter. You need a sixth, a seventh, and an eighth, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And not only because attrition, and also that way you can play the matchups a little bit better. You can figure out who's got two starts. You can figure out, more importantly, who's got better starts coming up, and avoid Coors Field starts, which is huge. Things like that. It gives you a little bit of flexibility. You can't avoid all the consequences of those, but I'll tell you, it goes a long way to having that sort of depth. But then, like you said, I mean, those guys aren't going to see the light of day in your playoff roster. It's funny though. Like even this team that won 102 games, won my World Series, I had Jose Urena as my number 4 starter. I mean, but I also had like a killer bullpen by then because I also traded for that. I also made a lot of aggressive trades. It's a keeper league, of course, and it's a soft 10. So you really have a core of guys that you want to keep in there. But it means you really you want to get those elite relievers down the stretch too. So you have a week 4 starter, fine. He goes 5 innings, and then you go boom, 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 and just shut down 6 through 9.
That's one of the biggest differences, I think, between Scoresheet and Rotisserie is that those guys that pitch the 6th, 7th, 8th inning in real life, they're pretty valuable in Scoresheet because starting pitchers don't go 8 innings anymore. You need someone to get from your starter to your closer.
Yeah, and if you can find someone that does that and they're left-handed, all the better. If you can get one that gets 4 or 5 outs instead of just 3, even better. Josh Hader, end of the season last year, is a perfect example of that. Guy go multiple innings at a shot. That's huge.
Yeah, and I think if you're in a keeper league and you really are trying to win it this year, trading for the good relievers in August, you give up some draft picks for the next year. You tell yourself flags fly forever, and you're willing to mortgage your future a little. You trade a 20th round draft pick, for a Josh Hader. Because the other team isn't going to keep Josh Hader on their next team. So if they're not making the playoffs, they don't mind giving him up.
Right. And then you do your best to recoup as many picks as you can in the offseason.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that, though, and so you're going to get lesser value, but that's fine. I mean, you're trying to get volume. And chances are you're going to have a good core for next year still, too. Like this team that I sold out for the future, I'm going to keep Verlander. I've got Chris Bryant. I've got Lindor. I've got Jose Ramirez. I've got Hosmer. I've got Lorenzo Cain. Those are all keepers. Plus, I've got a few good starters. So, Cain's not going to be world beater, but man, going to Milwaukee, I all of a sudden I'm a lot happier that I have him.
Yeah, if I was running the Giants, he would be on the Giants right now, not the Brewers. But not everybody could trade for him, I guess.
As an owner of him, I'm happy he signed with Milwaukee and not San Francisco. Let's put it that way. But I hear you. Giants had a lot of things to address, though, too.
They did, and the fact is, there are some hitters that just don't want to really come play there because it's not a hitter's park by any stretch. Right.
And that's one thing you got to remember when you're assembling your team too. Is let's face it, you don't adjust for ballparks. It doesn't matter where the guy gets his stats. Those are his stats. So you're going to give a bump to the Colorado guys. You're going to take a mark against San Francisco hitters.
Yeah. No, I mean we figure we're trying to match Major League stats, so we don't do park adjustments. But certainly when you're drafting or trading for players, you have to think about, this guy got traded out of Colorado. He's probably not going to have the same stats he had last year.
Right. That's right. But it's funny looking at the history of Coors Field hitters. That first year they are away, if they're one of those great guys to begin with, they actually do pretty well. You know this pretty well. I mean, you're a Giants guy. You saw Ellis Burks come to San Francisco and hit really well. Andres Galarraga went to Atlanta, hit really well. It's not an automatic death sentence. Matt Holliday had a horrible time in Oakland, but he didn't want to be there. Yeah. So he goes to St. Louis, and all of a sudden he's great again.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can't take that stuff too far, I don't think. And then back to what you said about pitching. Yeah, when I say you have to have a 4th and 5th starter, in Scoresheet, you need, like you said, 7 or 8. Because then you can do the matchups. You can, if you've got a 5th starter, you really don't want to play him the week he's got a starting course.
Right.
Or if he's just in a down thing. Plus, nowadays there's teams that are talking about going to 6-man rotations in real life. So you're not going to have nearly as many guys that start twice for you in a week in real life. So you might need 6 or 7 starting pitchers for your team just that week because none of them have 2 starts that week in real life.
That's absolutely right. And, and add in the 10-day DL versus the 15-day DL and how teams are managing their rosters. Here's looking at you, Dodgers. You can see that it's even more tricky. Now, so let me ask you a question. What happens if you don't have enough starts for a given week? Is it just, do you have some sort of way to kind of fudge that?
Well, we let bullpen pitchers start as long as they had more than 3 innings that week in real life. But if they didn't get a real life start, they can only pitch 3 innings in Scoresheet, and then they're taken out of the game. So then you're
pitcher AAA.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah, you're either burning up your bullpen because now you've got 6 innings of bullpen to cover, or we have anonymous AAA players because we play a simulation. We have to have players play. We can't just have a hole in the lineup or nobody pitching. But the AAA pitcher has an ERA of about 9. So, he could pitch for an inning and maybe not lose a game for you, but the teams that lead the league in AAA innings pitched are also the teams that are coming in 8th, 9th, and 10th in the league.
Yep.
You're not, if you have 100 innings of AAA pitchers over a season, you're probably losing way more games than you're winning.
Yeah, and maybe you're rebuilding, and of course, and that's by design, of course, because people will trade for depth, especially mid-season.
Yeah, and there's most of our leagues, probably 3/4 are keeper leagues. So single season's a little different. If you're out of the race in August, well, you're out of the race. That's the drawback of a single season. Of course, the good thing is you're not stuck with a lousy team for 2-3 years. You get to draft fresh every year, which I like. But most leagues are keeper leagues, and so the aggressive people, if in July they realize it's not their year, they're willing to trade, and the teams that want to win the playoffs have to be willing to trade with them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, once again, I'll mention Rotowire.com. Don't forget to go there, and they have great columns and advice like we're talking. They also will recommend players and do projections. You stare at stats all day. What's a couple guys you're looking to target this year?
Well, let's talk a little Luis Castillo. I mean, in standard leagues, rotisserie leagues, I think he's actually getting overdrafted a little bit, if you can believe, even though I'm about to recommend him. That's because I don't think his team context is all that great. He's not going to get a lot of wins. And I think that there's a chance they might shut him down early. But I think in a keeper league format, I mean, man, sky's the limit. And, of course, in Scoresheet, all I care about is ratios and his strikeouts. I don't care about the wins. And that's one of the beautiful things there about him. But, I can't love him enough. There's risk. The risk involved there is that the guys tend to break a little bit more often. Saw that with Syndergaard last year, Matt Harvey. Name your Met, basically. But these guys do tend to break down a little bit more often. That's something that is a concern. But man, he's so much fun to watch. So I'd like to get a share or two of him. I'm big on I've been pretty big on Luke Weaver, although I've read certain things like on Fangraphs that have kind of cooled me a little bit on him. But in the Scoresheet mock that we do in the off season, I grabbed him arguably too soon. But I was that high on him. Now we'll see how that one plays out. I still think that he's got the upside to be a number 2 starter, and that's not an insult at all. That's a pretty good title to have. So that's another guy I like among the pitching side.
You guys, people talk these days about drafting pitchers that get a lot of swinging strikes as opposed to just raw strikeout numbers. Mm-hmm. Do you guys track that kind of thing when you're?
It's funny you say that because I just did a blog about closers and their swinging strike rates, and I need to do the same for starting pitchers. But yeah, it matters. The correlation between guys that have a high swinging strike rate and good performance, consistent performance, repeatable performance, it's pretty high. It's there's no super stat out there, but I think it's one that's pretty telling. I think velocity is huge. I think swinging strike rate is huge, and often those are one and the same. I mean, a guy that's got to have some good breaking stuff obviously matters too. His secondary pitches have to be strong, be able to put guys away. But velocity gets you there. It starts the conversation.
Yeah, because I'm kind of one of those lazy guys. I just look at strikeouts per inning. But nowadays, it seems like every pitcher out there strikes out at least a guy per inning.
Well, and that's the thing. And I'll tell you this. First of all, it is a higher strikeout environment that we're in. But the other thing is there's so much information at our fingertips that wasn't there in the past. And for those of us that have been doing this a long time, it struggles. Sometimes I struggle to keep up with all the new metrics, not just metrics, but also all the StatCast information. and all that, it's all there. And being able to synthesize that is important. And those that get a better grasp of that are going to do well, whether it's Scoresheet, whether it's Roto, you name the format. Being able to master all the new focuses of information is important. And I don't want to be the dinosaur that's like railing against the night that the Statcast stuff is just too much for me. No, I'm going to have to try to learn it. If I want to stay relevant, that's important.
Yeah, no, we gotta use the data that's available to us. That's for sure. Yep. But you've always done, like I said, maybe not the most titles in BL Kings, but as I said, that's 24 owners that are all pretty good. You've always done pretty well. So you've in all your leagues, because you play rotisserie and all. So obviously you keep up pretty well on all that stuff.
Yeah, I try. I do try. It helps that it's my job.
Yeah, that helps a lot. You've also got a couple daughters, though, so that takes up some time, obviously.
That's also my job, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. 13 and 11 now. So I got a teenager. It's scary.
It does seem like they were just little 5-year-olds not very long ago.
I know. It does. It really does. And, you have boys, and you know how quickly it goes.
Yeah, they do. My boys are sophomores in high school. My daughter's a junior at UCLA, so it happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's for sure. Well, Jeff, it's good seeing you. Hopefully I'll see you in Phoenix down at the Arizona Fall League next fall. And I'm sure we'll talk again this offseason.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for putting together a great game and having me on here.
Well, I'm glad you're with us. And once again, folks, it's Rotowire.com. Try it out.